I'm Martez Killens. I'm a senior solution engineer here at Replicated. And so today I want to walk through a new capability in the enterprise portal, and that is customized installation instructions. I think this is going to be a powerful enhancement for our vendors that are managing multiple releases. It's going to meaningfully clarify installation instructions, the user experience, and then ultimately support outcomes for your end customers. So before the enterprise portal, what we see on the right is the download portal. So the download portal was relatively simple. We pretty much had a couple select options, and based on those select options, you were given a set of different installation instructions. These instructions were globally applied, so it didn't matter what channel you were in, you were going to get the same installation instructions for the type of installation you were doing. So I think internally, having some conversations, we thought that we could do better. We thought that we could help you as a vendor meet your customers where they are. For example, if your customers running multiple channels, and those different channels, they might have customers with different expectations for support. And then this global model kind of breaks down in that situation. We thought there was the opportunity to potentially communicate more context to your customers prior to the installation. We thought there was this opportunity to potentially create consistency. So I no longer have to, as a vendor, I no longer have to potentially maintain documents on my site and then have my customers link over and jump back and forth and change context. I could potentially have one place to manage all of my installation assets. I don't necessarily have to have these really deep, involved README files in my on my website and different things like that. Then finally, I think the biggest piece is potentially reducing the support burden. So if we can meet your customers early and get them the information they need beforehand, we hope that in the end that will reduce the support burden that comes down the pipe later. So now that we've set the stage for the custom installation instructions, let's talk about what we actually get with these installation instructions. So first and foremost, these templates are built in MDX, so that's going to be a mixture of Markdown and JSX. So Markdown, as we all know, we've done tons of READMEs, is really simple, really robust, readable, easy for documentation, has things like headings, listings, links, and things like that. And then I think JSX brings just more capability into that Markdown scenario, right? So we're going to have the ability to filter gaps for component-based models like templates and different things like that. So what we get out of the box are these template variables. So you can think of these as replicated defined variables. They give you install time context where you can fill those in into your different templates. You can couple those into components themselves, or you can display the templates by themselves. The components themselves will actually be these snippets of functionality that are predefined by Replicated that you could potentially bring over into your installation instructions. And then we'll have the conditional rendering. So the conditional rendering will allow you to look at different things like the potentially like what type of installation am I doing right now? Is it an air gap scenario? And then you're going to be able to render different components based on the installation type. It supports in-browser editing, so it's going to support autocomplete. So it's really a cool tool where you'll be able to kind of iterate online. You don't have to pull up any external tooling. It's customizable per channel, which is an important part. And then finally, I think the big piece is what it doesn't do, right? So we want to be secure, so you're not going to have to worry about custom or any custom imports or writing any custom JavaScript. So what we'll do is let's jump in really quick and take a look and go for a drive. So just to set the stage and the context, I'm going to have three different customers. There's going to each customer, one is Acme Traditional, one is Acme Showcase, and then the final customer is Acme Custom. And these all align to specific release channels. The traditional customer will align to the stable channel, and that's where I just have a traditional replicated global installation that you've typically probably seen before. The showcase customer will just showcase all of the different components, and we'll take a look at each of these components, explore what we can do and different possibilities. And then finally, with the custom customer, that's where I've gone in and created a custom set of installation instructions to show you and maybe give you a feel for what this might look like in action. So the very first thing I want to do is jump over into the vendor portal. And then in the vendor portal, we have the opportunity and the capability to actually start this configuration for these customized installation instructions. So as I said before, I'm going to be doing this across three different channels. The first channel is my stable channel. The second is beta, and then the unstable channel. In the stable channel, I actually don't have any customizations happening. I just want to re-level set and show you all what the traditional installation instructions look like. And so what we'll do is jump right over there. So if you've seen myself or maybe my boss, Chuck D'Antonio, demo the SlackerNews application, that's what we see right here. Once again, I'm in this traditional customer, and let's take a look at the install. So the very first install that I have going right now is a Helm-based installation. We can choose a version of our SlackerNews application to deploy. We log into the Helm repository. We're instructed to create a values.yaml file. We install, then run pre-flights, and then we actually install our application. So pretty straightforward, and I'm guessing you've probably seen something similar to this before if you worked in the enterprise portal. Now what we'll do is we'll jump over to the embedded cluster installation, and I actually have one already running, so I'll go ahead and continue that installation. And then once again, we see our traditional embedded cluster installation instructions. So we're able to select the version, we're able to download the assets, we extract the assets, and then we run the installation. So pretty straightforward. So now what I want to do is switch context, and I want to switch over to the showcase customer to show you what the possibilities are. So I'm just going to switch browser windows here really quick. Okay. So now we have our same SlackerNews application, but now we have this showcase-based customer. So once again, at the very top, we have the ability to choose a application version, and then we jump down into these layout components. So layout components give us the opportunity to either send alerts, send notes, information panels, tips, just information that we want to call out for our end customers. So pretty straightforward. We have display components. These could be code blocks. These can also be command blocks. The difference is a kind of a slight difference, but the command block is tailored specifically for terminal commands. But this is the template where you can actually make copy commands, send us code snippets and different things like that for your customer to view. We have inline code components as well. So if you have a paragraph and you want to embed code into that paragraph, we have those inline components. We have components where you can actually, number one, render data and then actually store that data back. And so these are the proxy components, the private registry input, and then the admin console URL. And then those could be used later on during the installation lifecycle. We actually have a step-based installation component as well. So as you saw in the traditional installation, we can walk through step by step. So this is step 1, step 2, step 3. We have a prerequisite section, a troubleshoot section. So the prerequisite section is just the things that we want to call out beforehand before we start our installation process. And then the troubleshooting section obviously is a section where we want to call out any potential issues that our customers might encounter. And then all of these sections, these component-based sections, you will be able to potentially nest other objects within those sections. So in this troubleshooting section, you see I have a code block in there as well. And then we also have a warning component as well. We have container components. So in this case, we see a tab-based model where we have 3 different tabs. One where we provide configuration for our development environment, our staging environment, and our production environment. We have an accordion component, same tab-like experience, but stacked on top of each other. And then these actually fold and unfold and allows us to provide configuration, or sorry, instructions within the different tab components. And then we have that conditional workflow, right? So in here, these are all, the messages in here are driven based on the different installation types. So right now I'm doing a Helm-based Linux install, so it's calling that out right here. And now these are the template variables. We have the opportunity to get contextual based install time values from the replicated platform. So we see things based on the application, on a specific release and the installation details. And then we see some topography examples that you traditionally would get with our regular Markdown. So with that is what we can do. Now let's take a look at a actual working example of what we might do. So I'm going to just swap out these screens one more time. Then I'll come back over here. And then once again, we have our SlackerNews application. This time we are on our custom channel, right? So in this case, what we'll first see and what we'll first do is we'll see some contextual aware changes that are happening, right? So right now, I see my Helm-based installation instructions. What I can do is swap over here to the Linux side. And then I actually already have a Linux install going. So what I'll do is continue that installation, and we see those installation instructions change based on the contextual cues that I'm getting from the replicated platform. So now the very first thing, consistency is we're always going to be choosing the application version first and foremost. But then after choosing the application version, if you think maybe, hey, I have this customer new to the replicated platform and I want to guide them, but the very first thing is they want to understand like what they're actually installing, right? So in this case, you might want to potentially give them an architectural diagram. So I've done just that. This is just an overview of the embedded cluster, the different components that get installed onto the node, and just an example binary that gets installed on top of the cluster that gets laid down. So pretty straightforward there. From there, we can then jump into the prerequisites. So this is the SlackerNews application. So because of SlackerNews, I need to be able to connect to an external Slack workspace so we can configure external links. From there, I jump into the actual installation instructions. So these are not the actual installation instructions that are generated by Replicated. I've actually recreated those through the custom installation instructions. So initially, we have the first install instruction where we're going to download the asset. We extract the asset within here. There's a couple of template variables that allow us to look at the application slug, to look at the channel that we're installing into. And then we actually run the installer. We can set the admin console URL, and then we have the troubleshooting guide at the bottom. So now let's jump back over to the Helm install. And then I'm just going to continue that installation that I had. There we go. Okay. And then so once again, on the Helm side, I have the prerequisites section. Then we're going to log into our Helm repository. Now, one big thing that I've talked to several customers about is several vendors, excuse me, but they're trying to potentially get rich instruction sets for how they communicate to their customers how to configure their values.yaml file. And so in this case, what I've done is I created a diagram, and you can do several different things. You can link to external documents, different things, but in this case, ultimately what I want to do is talk to my end customer and let them know how to configure the values.yaml file so it aligns with the templates, right? So we see in this case we have a deployment, we have the chart.yaml, and we kind of point from the chart.yaml to the information that is contained in the deployment, and then there's another piece of the replica count in this case is going to that deployment replica count. So we can point out these different things, like do different diagrams and things like that. We continue down, we install different pre-flights, we configure our repository. Oftentimes, when you do a Helm-based install, we need some type of pull secrets for our external registry. This could obviously be proxied by Replicator or potentially not, but you might want to just alert your customer about the need to create those secrets. So we've scoped that out right here to how we would create a secret. We install the Helm chart, we verify installation, and then once again, we have that troubleshooting spec at the bottom. So now what I want to do, I'm going to jump back over to the vendor portal, and then we'll take a look at how this all is configured. So I'm going to change context one more time. Bear with me. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll actually jump into the unstable channel, and we'll actually start looking at some code right here. So now this is the in-browser editor. As I said, it does support autocomplete. The very first thing that we do is we have this conditional render tag. And so this conditional render will render components based on this conditional. So it's going to say, hey, if my install type is Helm, I want to show this stage of my installation instructions. And then later on, we'll see something where if it's tied to embedded cluster, you see those installation instructions. There's the autocomplete functionality. So I'll come down here and then I will just type in here and then we see autocomplete. So this is the install time aware variables that we can use to embed into our different templates or show directly in the UI outside potentially of a template, or excuse me, outside of a component as well. So we see context around the application, we see context around the channel, we see context around the release, we see installation options. We're able to grab the list of images, raw images, or the full name to the image, and just some custom branding, right? So now what else we can also do? We can get autocomplete on the different components that are available to us. So in this case, if I wanted to create an alert, so actually we'll just do that really quick. So we'll go alert, we'll say a success alert and say, welcome to RepliCon. And then we save that. And I am on the unstable. So actually, let me pull this over really quick. And if I come over here, we see welcome to RepliCon. So really quick, really fast, what we can do and how we can make these different components really rich. I can actually tie information, embed templates within this potential, sorry, lost my train of thought. What we'll do is we'll just add the app name here. So we'll go app.name. And so we'll say, welcome to RepliCon. I'm showing you, and we'll come over here, save that. And we'll get our application name in here. Let me do a quick refresh. Okay, and so welcome to RepliCon. I'm showing you SlackerNews. So with that, a couple things that I just wanted to leave you with, a couple considerations and recommendations. So right now, this is an alpha feature. So some of these things are subject to change. Right now, to get access, it's behind the feature flag. So just let us know. And that's something that we can potentially work with you on enabling. My thoughts, recommendations when interacting with this feature, definitely let your support team bring them on, your onboarding team, so they just have visibility into what the installation instructions look like per channel so they're not surprised. Experiment with the feature, and then just think about what your support burden looks like, any requests, like any friction that you see now. And as you iterate on this feature, refine the template over time and not say start off small and then enhance as you go along.